The last line. Admiral Ziraval watched through the command deck's viewport as another Allied cruiser erupted into a brilliant flash of light, its reactor core breached by the Nexus Collective's impossibly precise quantum lance weapons. The remaining ships of the Seventh Fleet struggled to maintain formation, but their efforts seemed futile against an enemy that had defeated them 35 times before. Status report on the civilian evacuation, Ziraval demanded, her forehands gripping the tactical console as another blast rocked the flagship. 60% complete, Admiral, her executive officer replied, mandibles clicking with anxiety. But the Collective's web formation is tightening. We'll lose our evacuation corridor in less than 30 minutes. This was supposed to be different. The Allied Species Coalition had assembled their largest fleet yet to defend New Haven, their most crucial colony world. 7 different species had contributed their finest ships and crews, combining technologies and tactics that had been refined through centuries of space warfare. Yet here they were, facing the same inevitable defeat that had claimed 35 other worlds. The Nexus Collective's ships moved with mechanical precision, their crystalline hulls refracting weapon fire, while their quantum lances picked apart Allied defenses with surgical accuracy. They never rushed, never showed emotion or uncertainty. They simply executed their programmed battle doctrine with ruthless efficiency. New contact, the sensor officer shouted. Unknown configuration, approaching from the Kuiper belt. It's broadcasting on all frequencies. Ziraval's attention snapped to the tactical display. The unknown vessel was tiny compared to the capital ships engaged in battle, its design unlike anything in their database. It appeared almost primitive, with exposed structural elements and what looked like civilian-grade engines. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Diplomatic Vessel Handshake. A calm voice transmitted across all channels. We represent humanity, and we couldn't help but notice you're having some trouble with these fellows. The bridge crew exchanged confused looks. No one had heard of Earth or humans before, and this was hardly the time for diplomatic introductions. But before Ziraval could respond, the human continued. We've been watching your conflict from the edges of known space, studying both sides. We have a proposition that might interest the Allied Species Coalition, one that could turn this war around. A bitter laugh escaped Ziraval's throat. Unless you have a fleet hidden somewhere that can match the Collective's quantum technology, I don't see how. Oh, we don't need quantum anything, Captain Chen interrupted. We've got something better, industrial capacity and a complete disregard for conventional military doctrine. We've spent the last year converting our mining and construction fleet into something that would make our ancestors proud. Ever heard of the Trojan horse? As if on cue, massive gravitational distortions appeared at the edge of the system. What emerged made Ziraval's 4 eyes widen in disbelief. They were cargo ships, mining vessels, and construction platforms, hundreds of them. But they had been modified in ways that defied military logic. Mining lasers meant for cutting asteroid cores had been amplified to capital ship scale. Cargo holds had been converted into missile pods. Construction waldos now carried boarding pods and plasma cutters. Humanity formally requests permission to join the Allied Species Coalition. Captain Chen's voice carried a hint of amusement. We bring roughly 3,000 converted civilian vessels and crews who are very eager to show the Collective why you should never underestimate a species that spent most of its history finding creative ways to turn tools into weapons. For the first time in 35 battles, Ziraval felt something she had almost forgotten. Hope. Not because of the number of ships, they had fielded larger fleets before, but because of the sheer audacity of what she was seeing. The humans had looked at the most advanced military technology in known space and decided to fight it with modified mining equipment. Permission granted, Ziraval replied, mandibles forming what passed for a smile in her species. Though I have to ask, why help us? Simple. We've read your reports on the Collective. They're predictable, programmed, perfect. But there's one thing they've never faced: human ingenuity combined with industrial engineering. Let's see how their battle doctrine handles a cargo ship firing mining lasers powerful enough to crack planets. As the human fleet moved into formation, Ziraval realized she was about to witness either the most brilliant or the most disastrous military operation in coalition history. Either way, the war was about to change forever. Project Avalanche. 6 hours after humanity's dramatic entrance, Admiral Ziraval found herself aboard the human vessel Handshake, staring at technical specifications that challenged everything she knew about warfare. The ship's briefing room was cramped by coalition standards, filled with holographic displays showing modified civilian vessels that would make any military engineer question their sanity. "You turned a gas mining platform into a carrier?" she asked, studying the massive structure designated Beehive. Its original atmospheric processing vents had been converted into launch tubes for thousands of retrofitted maintenance drones. Captain Chen nodded, manipulating the hologram to show the internal modifications. "The processing tanks make excellent drone maintenance bays. Plus, the electromagnetic fields we use to collect gas giants' resources work surprisingly well for catching enemy missiles. We have about 50 of these ready to deploy." But none of this should work. Ziraval's second-in-command, Commander Kellex, protested. "The collective's quantum technology is predictable," interrupted Dr. Amanda Foster, the project's lead engineer. She pulled up combat footage from the collective's previous battles. "They rely on perfect calculations, perfect trajectories. Their quantum targeting requires microsecond precise data about their target's mass, velocity, and composition." She grinned, bringing up schematics of what appeared to be standard cargo containers. "So we decided to make everything wrong. These cargo pods, they're filled with programmable matter that can change density on command. Their targeting systems try to calculate the perfect shot, but the target's mass keeps shifting randomly." The more Ziraval learned about Project Avalanche, the more she understood why humans had named it after a natural disaster. They hadn't tried to match the collective's technological superiority. Instead, they'd found ways to make that very superiority work against them. Mining ships designed to crack asteroids have been upgraded with what humans called brute force approaches. Their extraction beams simply overwhelmed quantum shields through sheer power rather than trying to match frequencies. Construction vessels carried massive electromagnetic clamps that could grab enemy ships and disrupt their delicate targeting systems. "Here's the real beauty of it," Chen said, showing footage from their testing phase. "Everything we're using is technically civilian equipment. The collective's battle computers are programmed to prioritize military threats. Most of our ships don't even register as combat vessels until it's too late." But it was the next revelation that truly showed the scope of human innovation. "We call this the percussion section," Dr. Foster said proudly, displaying a group of enormous industrial haulers. "We stripped out everything except the engines and structural support. They're basically giant kinetic weapons now. When their hulls are charged with electromagnetic energy, they can punch through quantum shields like they're tissue paper." "And your people agreed to this?" Ziraval asked. "To convert their entire civilian fleet for war." Chen's expression turned serious. "We've watched 35 worlds fall. Watched how the collective strips planets bare and processes entire populations into their neural networks. Our people didn't just agree. They volunteered. Every mining corporation, every construction consortium, they all offered their ships and crews. But they're not soldiers," Commander Kellex pointed out. "No," Chen agreed. "They're engineers, miners, and construction workers who've spent their lives solving practical problems with heavy machinery. Trust me, that's much more dangerous." The briefing continued, each revelation more audacious than the last. Orbital construction platforms have been modified into mobile repair yards that could rebuild damaged ships mid-battle. Salvage vessels now carried swarms of reprogrammed maintenance bots that could infiltrate enemy ships through their own repair systems. "There's one more thing," Chen said as the briefing concluded. "We need the Coalition's help to make this work. Your military expertise combined with our industrial approach. That's how we win this. We don't need you to change your tactics. Just help us create chaos the collective can't calculate. Zarevol studied the battle plans one final time. They were insane, impossible, and completely ignored centuries of established military doctrine. They were also, she realized, exactly what they needed. "How soon can your fleet be ready for a major offensive?" she asked. Chen's smile was all teeth. "Oh, we're not waiting. Every minute we spend in briefings is another minute the enemy spends analyzing our ships, trying to figure out what they're dealing with. The whole fleet is already moving into position. We launch in 2 hours." As they moved to the bridge to begin preparations, Zarevol finally understood why humans called their converted civilian ships weapons of mass construction. They weren't trying to win through superior technology or tactics. They were going to build their way to victory, one repurposed industrial tool at a time. The war was about to enter a phase the collective's quantum computers could never have predicted. Organized chaos, powered by human ingenuity and heavy machinery. The art of industrial warfare. The Nexus Collective's fleet hung in perfect formation above the colony world of New Haven, their crystalline ships arranged in mathematically precise patterns. Their quantum sensors detected the approaching human fleet, but their battle computers struggled to classify the bizarre assemblage of vessels. They're deploying in complete violation of tactical doctrine. The collective's strategic hub transmitted across their neural network. Ship classifications do not match any known combat configurations. Aboard the converted mining vessel Thunderchild, Sarah Chen watched the enemy's formation with satisfaction. "They're trying to analyze us," she reported to Admiral Zarevol, whose flagship maintained position behind the human fleet. "And they're about to get their first lesson in industrial warfare. All ships, execute Operation Rockbreaker." The first wave of humanity's assault began with what appeared to be a standard mining operation. Hundreds of asteroid-cutting vessels moved forward, their industrial cutting beams powered up to levels that would have violated dozens of safety regulations back on Earth. The collected ships adjusted their shields, calculating the precise frequencies needed to deflect such primitive weapons. They weren't prepared for what happened next. Cutting beams at 400% capacity, Thunderchild's engineering chief reported. "Containment fields holding. Barely. Execute primary harvest pattern," Chen ordered. The mining beams struck the collected shields, not in concentrated points as military weapons would, but in wide, brutal swaths that overwhelmed their defensive calculations through sheer brutality. These weren't elegant military lasers designed to pierce shields. They were industrial tools meant to tear apart asteroids, now powered beyond safe limits, and aimed at military targets. First shell cracked, came the report as a collective cruiser's shields collapsed under the assault. Beginning extraction. The next phase demonstrated why humans had spent centuries perfecting the art of resource extraction. Modified harvester beams latched onto the damaged cruiser, treating its quantum-enhanced hull like just another mineral deposit to be processed. The ship's perfect crystalline structure began to disintegrate as industrial extraction equipment, designed to process asteroids, went to work. "Collective fleet is adjusting formation," Zarevol reported from her flagship. "They're shifting to a defensive pattern we've never seen before." "That's because they're fighting miners, not soldiers," Chen replied. "Time for Phase 2. Launch the maintenance swarm." From the converted gas mining platforms, thousands of modified maintenance drones emerge. In their original configuration, they had been designed to repair hull breaches and perform external maintenance on gas collectors. Now they swarmed toward the collective fleet like a cloud of mechanical insects, each one carrying industrial repair tools repurposed into weapons. The collective's point defense systems targeted the swarm, their quantum calculations predicting perfect intercept trajectories. But the drones moved with deliberate irregularity, their paths based not on military evasion patterns, but on the random movements of repair bots following damage signals. Beehive Actual reporting successful penetration. Came the call from one of the converted gas miners. Drones are accessing their hull through their own maintenance ports. Beginning internal repairs. Repairs in this case meant the drones were treating the enemy ships as damaged industrial equipment, attempting to fix them by reverting their quantum-enhanced systems to more stable conventional configurations. The collective's crews found their perfectly calibrated weapons being repaired into standard mass drivers, their quantum computers being upgraded to simple binary systems. The collective is launching fighters, Zyraval warned. Perfect. Deploy the salvage teams. This was where humanity's experience with space construction truly shone. Dozens of salvage vessels, originally designed to clear orbital debris and decommission old satellites, moved to intercept the fighter squadrons. Their electromagnetic grapples, once used to safely catch dangerous debris, now reached out to snag enemy fighters. The smaller craft found themselves caught in industrial tractor beams, their precise maneuvers meaningless against tools designed to handle unpredictable space junk. But the real devastation came from the converted construction platforms. These massive vessels had once built orbital habitats and planetary defense stations. Now they deployed their building equipment in reverse, their assembly waldos and construction arms, literally taking enemy ships apart piece by piece, treating them as structures to be decommissioned. Collective flagship is powering up their main quantum lance, Zyraval reported urgently. All ships, prepare for. Initiate Operation Percussion. Chen interrupted calmly. The massive industrial haulers, stripped down to engines and reinforced hulls, began their run. The collective's flagship targeted them with its quantum lance, scoring a direct hit on the lead hauler. But these ships had been designed to survive collisions with asteroids. Their hulls, charged with electromagnetic energy, simply absorbed the quantum beam. Then they hit. The first hauler struck the flagship's forward section at a significant fraction of light speed. There was no elegant exchange of fire, no tactical finesse. It was simple physics, mass times acceleration, delivered by a species that had spent centuries moving heavy objects through space. Direct hit, Chen reported with satisfaction. The collective flagship has been percussed. They're breaking formation, Zyraval announced, amazement clear in her voice. For the first time in 35 battles, they're actually retreating. As the collective fleet began a rapid withdrawal, leaving their damaged ships behind, Chen allowed herself a small smile. Send word to the coalition. Tell them the humanity's industrial fleet is ready to begin full production of victory. Breaking convention. Deep within the crystalline architecture of their primary computational hub, the Nexus Collective's strategic analysis cores faced an unprecedented crisis. For the first time in their centuries-long existence, their battle simulations were failing to produce reliable predictions. Unknown variable detected in combat algorithms, the analysis cores reported across their neural network. Human technological approach does not conform to established progression patterns, unable to calculate optimal counter-strategy. In the 3 weeks since the battle at New Haven, the collective had lost 12 more engagements. Each defeat challenged their fundamental understanding of warfare. Their quantum technology, perfected over centuries, was being systematically dismantled by retrofitted industrial equipment. Meanwhile, aboard the Coalition Command Station, Hope's Point, Admiral Zyraval and Captain Chen reviewed footage from the latest engagement. The holographic display showed a collective battle group being systematically taken apart by what appeared to be orbital garbage collectors. They modified their shields after New Haven, Zyraval noted, gesturing to the enhanced crystalline barriers around the collective's ships, attempting to counter our mining beams. Chen nodded, a hint of satisfaction in her expression. So we switched to using magnetic separator arrays, tools originally designed to sort space debris by composition. Their new shields might stop our beams, but they can't prevent their ships from being pulled apart by industrial-grade magnetic fields. The footage showed the converted garbage collectors in action. Their powerful electromagnetic systems, once used to safely capture and sort orbital debris, now created localizing fields that literally pulled the crystalline ships apart at their molecular seams. The collective's perfect formations meant nothing when their ships were being systematically disassembled by recycling equipment. But it's not just about the victories, Commander Kellix interjected, bringing up a strategic analysis. The collective's entire behavior pattern has changed. They're hesitating, second-guessing their own tactical doctrine. Look at these retreat patterns. They're almost human. That's because we forced them to adapt, Chen explained. Their quantum computers are programmed to find perfect solutions, but we keep presenting them with problems that don't have perfect solutions. How do you calculate the optimal defense against a mining laser that's deliberately being used wrong? The evidence was clear in their latest encounters. The collective had begun deploying their ships in irregular patterns, attempting to mimic the unpredictability of human tactics. But their quantum-enhanced crews, trained to execute precise maneuvers, struggled with intentional imperfection. We've received word from Earth, Chen continued, pulling up a new set of schematics. The second wave of conversions is ready. Wait until you see what they've done with terraforming equipment. The display showed massive planetary engineering vessels, their atmosphere processors converted into what the humans called weather warfare platforms. These ships could generate localized spatial distortions that played havoc with the collective's quantum targeting systems. Alongside them were converted seed distribution ships, their dispersal systems now launching clouds of self-replicating repair nanites that infected enemy vessels like mechanical viruses. The collective is adapting, though, Zyraval warned, showing recent battle recordings. They're developing countermeasures, learning from each encounter. Good, Chen replied with a predatory smile. That's exactly what we wanted. Every time they adapt to our primitive industrial weapons, they move further from their perfect quantum warfare doctrine. They're being forced to think like us, to embrace chaos and improvisation. And that's a game they can't win. She brought up another display, showing the latest conversion projects. Orbital hospital ships were being transformed into massive electronic warfare platforms, their medical scanning equipment repurposed to inject false data into enemy targeting systems. Deep space research vessels now carried experimental weapons that even the humans admitted they weren't entirely sure how to classify. The collective's greatest strength was their consistency, Chen explained. Every ship identical, every tactic optimized, every response calculated. But now they're facing an enemy that changes tactics mid-battle, that turns civilian tools into weapons they've never encountered before. They're learning that perfection is a weakness when fighting humans. A priority alert flashed across the command center screens. New intelligence showed the collective was pulling forces from across their territory, assembling their largest fleet ever recorded. Their quantum computers had apparently calculated that overwhelming force was the only remaining solution. They're preparing for a decisive battle, Zyraval observed, attempting to end this with one massive engagement before we can spread our innovations to more coalition worlds. Chen's response was to bring up schematics for what appeared to be converted luxury cruise liners, their recreational facilities transformed into massive troop transport and boarding systems. Then it's time to show them our latest project. Ever wondered what happens when you turn a pleasure cruise ship's gravity generators into weapons? Because we're about to find out. As the command center buzzed with preparation for the coming battle, Chen shared one final observation with her coalition allies. The collective thinks they're facing a primitive species using crude industrial tools as weapons. What they don't understand is that humanity's greatest weapon isn't our technology. It's our ability to look at any tool, any machine, any process, and ask ourselves, how can we use this to win a war? Victory through innovation. The largest space battle in coalition history began not with a dramatic exchange of fire, but with a tourist advertisement. As the collective's massive armada approached the Arcturus system, every quantum communication channel was suddenly flooded with cheerful marketing messages about luxury space cruises. Welcome aboard Stellar Dreams Cruise Lines. The messages broadcast. Today's special: gravity manipulation demonstrations and complimentary boarding activities. The converted cruise ships, their hulls still gleaming with decorative paint, drifted seemingly aimless through the battlefield. Their recreational gravity generators, once used to simulate planetary conditions for vacationing tourists, now pulsed with carefully calculated frequencies that created chaos in the local space-time geometry. From her command post aboard the Thunderchild, Captain Chen watched as the collective's perfect formation began to distort. Their quantum-based navigation systems, unable to compensate for the gravitational anomalies, forced their ships into unpredictable trajectories. "Remarkable," Admiral Ziraval commented from her flagship. "Their entire attack pattern is disintegrating before they fire a single shot." "That's the beauty of hospitality services," Chen replied. "They're designed to disorient you in the most comfortable way possible. Launch the maintenance swarm." The next wave demonstrated humanity's latest innovation in industrial warfare. Maintenance drones, now upgraded with tourism programming, swarmed the enemy fleet. Instead of attacking, they treated the collective's ships as tourist attractions, attempting to guide them through pre-programmed tour routes that just happened to disrupt their combat formations. But the collective had learned from their previous defeats. Their ships began deploying new defensive systems, crystalline structures that adapted and reconfigured to counter each human tactic. They were evolving, becoming more unpredictable, exactly as humanity had planned. "They're starting to think creatively," Chen observed. "Time for Phase 2. Deploy the terraformers." The massive planetary engineering vessels moved into position, their atmosphere processors humming with power. These ships had once been designed to transform hostile planetary environments into habitable worlds. Now they created bubbles of chaotic space that made conventional combat impossible. Inside these zones, the laws of physics became suggestions. Quantum targeting systems, dependent on precise calculations, failed completely. The collected ships found themselves fighting in an environment where their technological superiority meant nothing. "Their flagship is adapting," Ziraval warned. "They're attempting to analyze the pattern in the chaos." "Then it's time to show them our final conversion project," Chen responded. "Launch Operation Hospitality." The luxury cruise ships, which had been maintaining their seemingly random drift patterns, suddenly activated their true weapons. Their massive swimming pools, converted into liquid metal reservoirs, expelled streams of programmable matter that coalesced into ever-changing shapes. Their entertainment centers, once used for zero-gravity dance parties, now generated electromagnetic pulses that turned enemy shield frequencies into light shows. But the true masterpiece was revealed when the cruise ship's medical bays went to work. Their diagnostic systems, designed to monitor thousands of tourists' health simultaneously, had been reprogrammed to analyze and exploit weaknesses in crystalline ship structures. "Begin the final approach," Chen ordered. "All industrial vessels, commence total warfare protocols." The battlefield erupted into orchestrated chaos. Mining ships tore through space, their extraction beams working in concert with the terraformers' reality distortion fields. Construction platforms deployed swarms of builder bots that treated enemy ships as renovation projects. Garbage collectors initiated what they called aggressive recycling procedures. The collective's massive fleet, designed for perfect warfare, found itself trapped in an environment where perfection was impossible. Their quantum computers, struggling to calculate solutions, began experiencing cascading failures as they encountered scenarios that defied their fundamental programming. "Their neural network is destabilizing," Ziraval reported. "The quantum links between their ships are breaking down." "Because they're finally understanding something humans learned centuries ago," Chen explained. "The universe isn't perfect. It's messy, chaotic, and sometimes the best solution involves hitting something really hard with a mining laser." The battle reached its climax when the converted hospital ships launched their final attack. Their medical scanners, originally meant to diagnose illness, instead diagnosed weaknesses in the collective's quantum architecture. The data was fed to the maintenance swarms, which began treating the enemy ships by systematically dismantling their quantum systems. "Collective flagship is broadcasting," Communications announced. They're requesting technical support. The message that came through was unlike anything the Coalition had ever received from the collective. Human innovation exceeds known parameters. Strategic doctrine insufficient. Request exchange of technological principles. Desire to understand human creative engineering. Chen looked to Admiral Ziraval, who nodded in approval. Send them our standard industrial equipment catalog, Chen ordered. The unmodified version. Let them try to figure out how we turned garbage collectors into battleships. As the collective fleet initiated surrender protocols, Chen reflected on humanity's unique contribution to the war. They hadn't won through superior technology or military might. They had won by looking at everyday tools, mining lasers, maintenance drones, cruise ships, and asking one simple question: what if? The war that had claimed 35 worlds ended not with a dramatic last stand, but with humanity teaching an advanced alien civilization the art of thinking outside the quantum box. And somewhere in the background, the cruise ship's marketing systems were still cheerfully advertising their next scheduled departure.